I can hear you.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How's it going? How's it going?
How are you? You
I'm so
okay?
good. Yeah,
You
I'm doing
got a
okay.
proper room, man. That looks like give us a twirl
Oh,
around it.
okay. Here's a little
Yeah.
tour. This is
Yeah.
my studio or the office in our gym. So
Okay.
this is So
Oh, okay.
fish tank.
Why do you have a fish tank?
I don't know. Actually, I moved the fish
Okay.
tank from our house, and because we didn't
Oh,
live
right.
with it
Okay.
anymore, so now it's here. And then the
The
computer that I'm
Filipino in you
talking about.
doesn't want to throw it away, is that right? Hi, me.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's exactly correct.
Yeah, don't
So,
worry. I'm the same.
oh
I
my
don't like
god.
throwing stuff away.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so of course you're in the UK. You got your tea. Of course, you got the tea. So fancy.
Yeah.
So how are you? How are things going? What's going on with you?
I don't
How's
know.
life?
Well, me personally, or
Yeah, yeah.
like
Well, I
the
mean,
UK.
we haven't talked since then, obviously. So just catch me
Okay.
up on that, and we'll talk about what's going on with the world.
Okay. Well, I've got a new job.
Yeah.
I work for yeah. I moved to the city first of Feb.
Okay.
Um, in London, and here I
Mhm.
am, like the small town Northampton. Well, don't know if you know, but
Mhm.
Northampton is like this countryside living in
Okay.
villages.
Okay.
Everybody knows everybody. Like it's a familiar town, and it felt like Surrey.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
lived there for 12 years, and then I moved to London, like the big city,
Mm.
on the first of Feb.
Okay, so you're
Um,
you're recently transplanted into the city. So for
yeah,
people who are listening, so Chris and I went to high school together. We grew up
yeah.
together, and she moved to the UK. How long ago? 12 years ago? 13 years ago?
I'd say 13. Yeah,
Yeah,
13
13
would be
years
the right.
ago, and she's been living there pretty much ever since. And you've been back quite a few times since, obviously. But you've moved your life over there essentially.
It feels like home.
Oh my gosh, isn't that so
Yeah,
wild?
it's weird.
It's
I
so
think
wild.
because most of my working adult life
Yeah.
is done here, and I'm
Mm.
familiar with the taxes, the laws, and all that stuff. So if I moved back to Vancouver
Mm.
or Surrey or whatever,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
my
I
gosh.
probably wouldn't know how to drive. I
You're a
got
tourist here now too.
I know.
I know, because you're on the other side of
So
the road now too. That's the other thing.
exactly, and I drive what you call it, manual.
Oh, okay. So you're on the
Yeah,
right side of the car. The stick's over here.
yeah. That's it.
So
That's
now
it.
you were living in Northampton. You said that's kind of like the suburbia, and then
Mhm.
now you're in the
The
city.
city,
So how has that
yeah.
transition been? Living kind of in the
Oh,
suburbs to now the city.
London is amazing.
Yeah.
Like it really is.
Mhm.
It's a melting pot of cultures,
Mm.
religions, and I meet the most interesting people in London, like with different life stories.
Yeah.
Everyone's about maybe I would say maybe 7 out of 10 people.
Mm.
They've come from a different country. I've never met
Really?
anyone. My landlord's from Guyana. I didn't even know there was a country called Guyana.
Yeah. I know.
I'm like, oh, are you from? Oh, is that Africa? Like, no, that's Ghana,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Guyana is
Yeah.
in South America. And I was like, what? And here I am.
Really?
I'm googling that. And yeah, it's just, yeah, it's weird because she looks like she's from India, but
Okay.
she's got a Jamaican accent. And
Oh
I find
wow.
it so intriguing. And I'm like,
Mhm.
talk to me again. What's
Just
going on?
let me listen
And
to your
she's,
voice, please. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, she is. Yeah, so I'm meeting the most interesting people
Mm.
here with a million stories, and I'm taking a lot of I'm absorbing all of it
Yeah.
until like Corona hit.
Oh my
So like,
gosh.
yeah. So I think now, if you're gonna ask me how I am now, like in
Mm.
present day Chris,
Yeah.
I would say I'm a little the atmosphere is a little somber to me.
Mm.
It's I go outside from what I'm used to, the hustle and bustle of the city.
Right.
I'm used to going into the underground, and
Mm.
everyone's sardined in.
Yeah.
I'm 5'2", everyone's taller than me. I'm in everyone's like armpit level, so
Right.
everyone's got their arm up. I'm like right
Oh my
here,
gosh.
and I'm just like, oh my goodness, this comes with the city life,
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
so so now present day Chris is going into the tube. I can find a seat.
Mhm.
There's like about 10 of us in a train. We're all like far apart, and it just feels weird.
Right.
And it's not the city that I was so excited to join.
And especially
Um,
because it was so new for you. You had just moved there like a little over a
yeah.
month or almost 2 months ago now, right?
That's it, yes. And like the bars are shut, the restaurants, they're all shut. Everyone's feeling the pinch
Hmm.
because not enough business is going around. So this this unprecedented, that's like
Yeah,
the main
that's
word
the
like
word.
now, is
Yeah, it is. It
unprecedented
really is, though.
thing. It really is. That's right. And it's I work for the CEO of a retail chain,
Okay.
and I'm also learning from him because instead of panicking and talking about, I'm listening to a lot of high level conversations about
Right.
what strategies there are, and a lot of talented people who just find ways to soften the impact,
Mm,
because this coronavirus. I
yeah,
hate that word.
I know. It
It's
gets
like the
thrown around so
worst.
much. Yeah, I know. I know.
So
Um,
this thing is like, it's actually not just going to affect like the population. It's going to
mhm,
affect things like in the economy. So
yeah, yeah.
so I'm listening to a lot of conversation, and it's very much a reactive kind of
Mhm.
world right now.
Right.
So my life right now is very quiet. So
Yeah, I
I'm
bet.
just like, and
And
I'm the
do you have your own
planner.
flat? You live on your own?
I live in a room in a shared house.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. So you have people with you. You're not physically alone, which is kind of a good thing. Or is that a good thing or what?
That's a good thing. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Okay,
Yeah. And there's FaceTime. I'm connected with a lot of people. So
yeah,
it's like I'm having this conversation with you. I
yeah.
haven't spoken to you in years.
Years.
So,
No,
well, actually, we did speak. We did speak last summer, like
briefly.
when I visited
That's right.
briefly,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Yeah, but I'm keeping connected with
Mm,
a lot of people who have, like, technology is like the thing.
yeah,
I had a conversation with my friend
yeah.
the other day, and then we're trying to like turn around the mood, because like
Mm,
when you go in the office it feels like, really
right.
negative. They're like, oh, this is going to affect our jobs and
Mhm.
whatever. I'm like, okay, let's find the silver lining somewhere.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
who is winning right now? So
Oh
Netflix
yeah,
is
yeah. Oh, for
winning.
sure. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guess what the number one trending movie is right now on Netflix?
What is it?
Contagion.
Why do people want to like feed
Well,
themselves?
okay, you know what?
Like,
And I'm sort of a victim. I kind of fed into it.
okay,
We
all
watched it
right.
last night. I watched it last night. I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
Okay,
So,
what's it about, Kevin?
well, quite literally, what's happening right now in real time, but obviously in an accelerated platform because it's an hour and a half movie. But it quite literally is about a virus that spreads, globally, and people underestimate the impact of it, given
Hmm.
the nature of how quickly it spreads and how it spreads. And to me, it was more. I mean, obviously, it's a movie, so there's a lot of fiction in it, but it's more the understanding and wrapping my head around just kind of how dramatic it can really be, notwithstanding it being a movie, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think it helps frame for me, despite the news and everything, how serious and how quickly it can get very serious so soon. I know you were trying to say turn around the mood, but I almost feel like I needed to inform myself in some way
yeah,
as
get
to how serious
prepared.
it can be. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
So
what are you doing differently?
myself? Well, for us
Yeah.
here, I mean, we've had to close our gym. So
Mhm.
obviously, this is kind of our livelihood. We're in here all the time. I'm in here by myself.
Mhm.
But we have, a number of trainers that come in here, and they have clients. I have my own clients, and we also have members that we've had to tell, you got to stay home. We try to take an approach of, kind of steps. Before, when we first kind of started getting wind of cases of COVID-19 here in BC, we're like, okay, we got to put
Mhm.
some measures in place so that we don't contribute to the spread. So we bought what Lysol wipes, and bought some antibacterial sprays and things just to kind of make sure everything's sanitary. And we put certain protocols in place so that every trainer was following through, every member was following
Mhm.
through. And then it got to the point where it's like, okay, well, you guys need to keep your distance. Short of actually closing down the business, we're like, okay, we can only have so many people in the gym. And I got to a
Yeah.
point where it's like, you know what, even that's not enough, because you're touching some of the same
Mm.
equipment. Maybe you sneeze or touch something, or, breathe or spit on something by accident, and then someone else touches it. It just wasn't enough. So we've just
Mm.
obviously decided, along with pretty much every business around here, to just, except for essential services, just completely shut down. And I'm not sure if you're aware of what's happening over here now, but it sounds like, especially particularly in BC and some other provinces, they've mandated businesses, personal service businesses, like nail salons, massage parlors, things like that,
Yeah.
including gyms, to just shut down completely, and the RCMP is enforcing. businesses to be closed. And if you're not,
Mhm.
there's certain repercussions now. And I'm glad that they're
Mhm.
doing that, but I think it couldn't have come
Mhm.
sooner. I think it should have been sooner, I think, right? So,
Do you know, this is what I'm thinking over
mm,
here. Our numbers are, we're the top 10 in the UK. We are in the top 10 in the globally infected
right.
world. And I think because, and I actually live in the third most infected district in
Oh
London.
my gosh, really?
So yeah, so here I know. So trust, man, I've got my mask out, I've got my gloves out, like
Mm,
I got a defense system going. But but it's like it's honestly a game changer, isn't
yeah.
it? Is this thing, like my friend said that she went to the supermarket and there's security guards in front of the supermarket, like you
Mhm,
said, monitoring the amount of people, the amount of bodies inside the supermarket, because we can't be that near each other.
mhm.
So, and it also avoids theft and, over stockpiling,
Oh my
like
gosh,
on
yeah.
the, yeah, yeah, that's it. So, if the thing is, British culture,
Mm,
we don't panic. We tend to find, yeah. I don't know if you met another British person, but like from my experience,
mm,
if there's a disaster happening, someone's gonna make a joke out of it, and it's
yeah, yeah,
and that's the heartedness of the Brits, is
yeah,
like, we're not as reactive as like the Americans.
right.
We're kind of going, what will be will be,
Right. Now,
and
would you say that that is like the lightheartedness I think is very much appreciated, especially for people, especially in
mhm,
this here, because I think even for me, I'm a little bit more on the serious end of things.
mhm.
But would you say that lightheartedness it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not taking it seriously. They're just finding the silver lining in what's going on and finding some humor in it, if that makes sense.
Well, that
Yeah.
the latter, but
Yeah.
also I think if the government has they have a responsibility not to cause chaos.
Mm,
So there's that you need to find that balance of what
sure.
steps to take without causing chaos.
Right.
Um, and because we're a hugely densely populated nation, the panic and the chaos could actually be worse than the disease itself.
Right.
So we've just shut down schools
Hmm.
this week. On Friday, it was the last day. We shut down all the schools, and um, the restaurants are only open for takeaway service.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, so we're taking small steps.
Mhm.
It's not as radical as the states. Oh God, the states! Oh my God, 20,000 infected. It's just
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
and we're going to that trajectory. Like the more I listen to these figures, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like
Yeah.
this is this is something we really should react on. So I'm taking social distancing a lot more seriously now.
Mm.
So
That's true.
yeah,
I'm glad
it's
that you
true.
are, and it's really interesting that you say that because here I find, and again, just personal opinion, because I hear and I spoke with someone who is actually in Italy, in Florence, Italy, right now, and she's saying that Florence isn't even the epicenter of it. It was kind of in the northern region, and
Hmm.
it's kind of spread down, and so Florence is becoming one of those places that are more affected. But we're perhaps a week or two behind where Italy is now, or just like slightly more. But
Hmm.
the measures that they now have in place are things that she's saying we should already have. And the only reason behind that is because certain people just are not taking it seriously enough. Like you're saying, you're taking social distancing far more seriously. Just today, oh no, yesterday, I was out for a walk with my dog,
Hmm.
and there was a cluster of people, kids and family, just kind of hanging around in a park. Now, the park is quite a lot less busy than it normally is, but there's these clusters of people, and I'm thinking, I don't think they are getting the message. Like, what is it that is required for them to get the message
Yeah.
without having this visual, which is going to cause panic, i.e., tanks or like military vehicles, with weapons, making sure you're staying in your house. But guess what? That's where she's in Florence. That's exactly what's happening. There's trucks with military making sure that you're not roaming around for no reason. Like, at what
I
point
don't
did
want
they
it to
get to
get
that
that.
point? Absolutely,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, that's like personal freedom now.
Yeah.
It's affecting personal freedoms
Right.
for the greater good.
Mm.
Is it for the greater good? Because the people in the front line are the ones enforcing it, and
Right.
it becomes very it becomes the thing is it becomes very divided in
Yeah.
a nation, and we're trying to promote like, oh, this is, if you stay at home, you're doing somebody else a favor. This
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
message. Like, it's trying to be as positive as
Yeah. For
even,
sure.
yeah, in a positive note. That's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't react well to
Mm.
is, if we are enforced, or if there are boundaries, um, in a disaster. That's where
Mhm.
the panic happens,
Yeah.
and that's where people start rebelling, and this is where the anger happens.
Yeah.
And we want to keep things calm,
Yeah.
because someone told me, like, this is the calm before the storm.
Mm.
And if we look at Italy, which is so devastating. I mean, if you think about it, it's like a generation had died, you
Yeah.
know.
So true.
The people have died, are like elderly people who probably have decided, look, I've worked 30, 40 years, and I just want to enjoy my life now in
Yeah.
beautiful Italy,
Right.
and this happens.
Mhm.
And I I just think that, I don't know. I really do think it's really hard to put a positive light onto it
Yeah.
without, without working together.
Right. No, it's
So the more law enforcement there is, what I'm trying to say is, the more law enforcement there is, the more
mm,
government control there is.
mm.
I think that's just gonna that's that's gonna that's not gonna bode well for much of the public.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, and I'm glad that you've taken that stance. I agree.
hmm,
It's just disheartening to see people not taking it seriously. Like it's just like,
yeah,
what is it that it takes to get that message through? You know. So
yeah.
so in the UK right now, what's kind of the? I mean, now that you're in London, you're saying that it's a bit more somber mood. Like, what does it look like if you look out the window? Are people still milling around, or is there, like, what are the so-called rules that you need to apply, abide by, that to enforce social distancing for yourself? Like, what kind of things have they said that you need to do?
They've encouraged, to be at least a meter away from the next person.
Okay.
So that is helpful. They say, don't touch high contact places like push buttons or like rails or whatever.
Mm.
Although it's being cleaned, it just takes that one person to touch it and,
Right.
infect a lot.
For
So
sure.
you just kind of, you kind of avoid that. I wear gloves. I wear a mask. I live 4 stops away from where I need to go,
Okay.
and I try to breathe very little until, like, I get there.
Yeah.
I
Hold your
like
breath.
race up to the escalators. It's like a war zone for me.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
wearing
yeah.
like this
Oh my
mask and
god.
these gloves, and I'm just
Right.
racing up to the escalators trying to get
Mhm.
some fresh air.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is, trying to minimize the amount of contact you have
I
with
see.
surfaces, and stay away from vulnerable people.
Mhm, mhm.
Because I actually don't know if I'm a carrier. I don't.
That's right.
I
We
don't
don't know.
feel
I could be
anything.
too. Exactly.
Yeah,
We don't know yet.
yeah,
And
yeah.
from what I heard, I was speaking with someone who works in the labs here in BC, and she's
Mhm,
saying there are carriers who may never actually show symptoms and could be infecting people as we speak and have no clue, and we will never have a clue. There are people who are asymptomatic all the way through, which is incredible to hear, because it's like you will just never know where that came from, if you have it or if
mhm.
not, or whatever.
Oh,
Um, what I wanted to ask you about that, because especially in the city, for you, like here commuting, we don't necessarily have to take public transit, but for you, because
mhm,
you're in London, it's far more dense. Are you compelled to take public transit to get to where you need to go? Is that the most convenient way? Because I feel like you're going into a place where you potentially have a higher risk of being, exposed, and it's
mhm.
almost a necessity for people. Whereas here, people generally, you need to drive to get places, right? So
Yes.
how is it different there in London?
Well, it's easier to take the transit,
It is.
but
Okay.
I've brought my car over, so I've driven to where I need to go before, just to avoid the underground.
Okay.
That's the breeding ground, I feel. So
Well,
I'm
yeah,
like,
because
no, stay
the
away.
people actually, yeah, right?
Yeah, oh my goodness. The other day, Kevin, I saw someone eating inside the train, and I'm just like, you're just asking for it now. Like, he was eating like one of them like Cornish pasties,
Oh,
licking
yeah,
that thing everywhere, and I'm just like, you nasty, like, you know. And I feel like this is what this disease is causing, is like me thinking about like other people's practices, because that's a normal thing for anybody,
Right.
really, right? And what I'm trying to avoid is that this disease would would lose my perspective in the
Mm.
the good of mankind.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, this
yeah.
guy was doing something so innocent, and I'm thinking, man, you nasty, you nasty. Don't you know that
Yeah,
there's a disease out there? No, I
right.
don't know.
Isn't that
So
strange that it's changed how we perceive things now? Like watching a movie, a TV show,
mm,
something, and they're
mhm,
hugging and shaking hands or high-fiving. I'm like, "Hey, whoa, whoa, don't do that." And I'm like, "Oh, wait, it's a movie, it's a TV show." But now it
yeah.
almost feels weird and
It
strange
does. Yeah, I'll
because
never take it for granted again. I mean, what do you
absolutely.
do in lieu of shaking hands or high five
Well,
now?
because again, in this industry, that's all it's about, right? Fist bump,
Yeah,
whatever.
I
So
just
I'm
do
like,
this. I
yes,
just like give
just
my
elbow.
elbow.
And
I'm like,
now
elbow.
it even went to just air elbows, just air taps with the elbow. It's not even
Yeah,
touching them
yeah,
physically now. So, I mean, we've had to
yeah,
do what we had to do, and I can't even do that now because I have no clients that are coming in to train,
yeah.
but for good reason, right? For good reason.
For good reason.
So, what about the people that are living with you? Are you guys doing some social distancing with one another as well? Because, right, right, how does that work?
I I'm lucky enough to live in a big house.
Okay.
So yeah, so the my one of the one of the housemates is a doctor, so
Mm,
he's out in the GP. He's told me about my experience, his own experience, which I'll let you know.
mm,
The other guy, he has a doctorate in engineering, so he's like a little bit of an introvert, so he
yeah,
stays like in his shell a lot.
right.
And the other one, she's in Guyana for she's my
Mhm.
landlord.
Okay.
She's in Guyana for 3 4 weeks, or 3 weeks
Mm,
supposedly, but we don't know how that's going to be extended.
right.
But yeah, I should let you know though, the doctor, the housemate that's a doctor, he has some really interesting stories. So he was
Mm,
telling me that because his surgery, or what do you call it, a medical office in
yep.
Canada?
Mhm.
Is it medical office?
Yeah.
Yeah, so his medical office is actually locked.
Okay.
So yeah, so they're preventing people from coming
Coming
in.
in. Right.
Yeah, so the majority of his day, maybe 5 hours, is taking phone calls in for symptoms or whatever,
I see.
and whoever can come in is only allowed in by invitation,
Okay.
in with an appointment.
Right.
So if you think about anyone who had a routine checkup, like for diabetes or heart, lung pressure or whatever,
Right.
that's all had to be delayed
I see.
because of this, and it's just a coordinating nightmare for
Yeah.
anyone who does any medical coordinating. That's a nightmare because you have to like be reactive. So
Mhm.
so he tells me that like um there are people out there that are just young or whatever, and then they're surprised themselves that they're a carrier because they felt nothing.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh my God,
I know.
if I feel nothing now, I don't know if I'm a carrier.
Right.
So
Right. It's
so
really it's quite an interesting perspective. This invincibility, I think, that this younger generation may have, or they feel they have about it.
mhm,
It's kind of unfortunate because I think they're not looking beyond themselves. And there was some footage, a couple days ago about these people doing, spring break celebrations in Miami and things like that. And they're still congregating. Businesses are closed, the beaches are closed, but they're like, no, we're gonna
yeah,
make the most of our experience. But 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, who knows? These are the people that are going to be carrying it, and they're not thinking about the repercussions of those actions. What if they're getting
mhm,
into contact with their parents, who are then getting into contact with their grandparents, who are the most
that's it.
susceptible to this? Um,
Mhm.
it's like, again, so how do we reframe these people's minds to take it seriously now, right? I think that's kind of what's the challenging part, right? Without
I
getting too
I would
dramatic.
I would love there to be a blood test that
Right.
said whether or not you had it, or
Oh,
you
of
still
course.
need to wait for it,
Yeah.
because peace of mind is I think the key to all of this,
Hmm.
right? Because they don't have a cure for it. I
Yeah.
know they're still studying like what it is, and they're trying to figure out what vaccines to put together, or whatever. But I think at the moment, because everything's so unsettling, peace of mind would just grant a lot of like calmness
Yeah.
in the world. So if because someone told me that there isn't a study where it's like chicken pox. So if you've
Mm.
had it, your body creates antibodies, right? So it's like then you won't get it again.
Right.
So unless you're really sick and your blood cells forget that they had it in the first
Mm-hmm.
place.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was a blood test out there that just said you already had it, you're fine, you can live about your life and do
Right.
whatever. I could volunteer for like a food shelter or whatever and be in
Mm,
the
so
front lines
true.
of that. I could apply myself and I feel pretty, if I'm honest with you, Kev,
Mm.
I feel pretty useless being sitting at home where I don't feel sick and I feel like I'm not doing myself a favor just
Yeah.
kind of isolating myself.
Yeah.
So it'd be great if I already know I had it or not, you
Yeah,
know?
that's a really good point you make, and
Mhm.
I'm sure the health professionals are working on something like that. I mean, I really certainly hope they do, and I'm sure that they
Mhm.
are, because there is, in this regard, I think that knowledge piece is so important. If we had that knowledge or that peace of mind, like you said, that we are good, we can go out and help people who actually need it, instead of
Yeah.
everyone kind of having this fear-based mentality of, I don't know if I'm going to get it, I need to isolate myself from you. That
Mhm.
uselessness is kind of overwhelming. It's a weird feeling, because how is it overwhelming that you're sitting at home? It's not like
Yeah.
we're on vacation because we're
We're
sitting
not
at home.
no.
You know what I'm saying? I think people get,
Yeah.
and it's easy to
Oh,
get
you get time off.
into.
I'm like, no, this is not time off for me. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and
yeah,
technically, I'm still working for the people that I work for. I'm still working because I can do this
yeah.
job remotely. But the uselessness thing is so true, because what could we be doing? Physically able, younger people who may
Mhm.
be immune or not carrying it or will not get it. How can we
Mhm.
contribute? We don't know. We don't know, right? And I mean, I can only do my best within the industry that I work in,
Mhm.
to connect with people remotely. Things that I'm doing with you, sharing the message on my podcast and stuff. But um, I still kind of feel useless, like you're saying, right? Because we're so used to just contributing.
I'm
And
a doer. I'm a
yeah,
doer, Kev.
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
just want to be out there. That's
Right,
why I moved to the city and I was anticipating like my life in social
right,
areas.
right.
Um Eileen Dela Cruz, I don't know if you
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know her, right? She also lives in London and
Okay.
she she's a songwriter, but
Mhm.
like she has a regular job where she would play gigs in hotel lobbies.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, oh my God, I went to see her at the Dorchester, and it's like the fanciest hotel I've ever seen. They have
Wow.
service bathrooms, Kevin. Like
Really?
what the hell? People wipe your hands for you, okay?
I
Like
was gonna say, people wipe your ass for you. I'm like, what?
no, no, that's me.
Oh, that's
Leave it alone.
yeah, 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 yeah.
but um but yeah, so she's playing the piano or whatever, and because like I walk everywhere, I take the train, I'm
Right,
wearing 27-pound like Skechers shoes in like this really fancy whatever,
right,
and I'm
right.
hiding my feet underneath the table
Oh
in the
my
bar and
god.
stuff.
You
I'm
don't.
like but
Yeah,
yeah, it's she's saying that
yeah,
all her gigs are canceled.
yeah.
So it's very unsettling for self-employed people, for
Right.
performers. And can you just imagine like the reason why you get more creative is you practice a lot.
Yeah,
So right?
yeah,
And because you have to stay at home and do very little and
yeah.
try to find ways um you I think it's gonna, I don't know, it would affect your creativity if you're not
For sure.
putting it into practice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm feeling for her. I
Mhm.
just care about spreadsheets and diaries. It's fine. But for her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How does one who is in a creative field, how do they continue to foster that creativity when they don't have the platforms where they can perform, right? And
That's a really good
obviously,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
like obviously, I mean, I've seen clips of like Bono and U2 and like I think it was John Legend performing at home and stuff, doing these virtual concerts.
Mhm.
But these people, and I think during that segment in the news, these people are what I guess we could say going to be financially or economically stable and can weather this out, regardless of how
Yeah.
long this is, or for a longer period of time. Whereas there are people who do, require themselves to be working all the time to sustain their lifestyle,
Mhm.
especially self-employed people who may not have that security. So how do these people like your friend, kind of sustain their life, right? And not only that,
Exactly.
but foster their creativity so that when life gets back to normal, they can just kind
Hmm.
of resume where they left off or continue to thrive. So that's, I think, going to be one of the major challenges with what we're dealing with is this economic rebound. How is that all going to
Yeah.
happen? How can we all recover, and how can governments recover? Because governments are promising aid for people, which is obviously a great thing, because if you're going to mandate people to shut down, you're going to have to help them do that, right?
Hmm.
But
They're
how
doing
will the
that in
breakdown?
Europe.
Are they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Italy is the government, like Italy's government is providing 90%. There's an essential class and I don't non-essential class. Is that
Discretionary. Yeah.
the yeah,
Discretionary.
I don't know.
I know.
So those in the essential class, they have to work.
Gotcha.
So this is doctors or whatever, right? Non-essential where they're forced to stay at home and
Mm.
really doesn't have the skill set, and the best thing the government can ask for is just stay at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're offering 90% of their
Wow.
wages to the people who's yeah, so that way, they've got money to spend for their own livelihoods.
Right.
Because and Austria is doing 80%, and there are governments out there that have schemes
Mhm.
that are going to protect its own people, but uh, it's going to take a massive commercial hit, don't you feel? Like I
Absolutely.
feel it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so like I'm sure business rates nowadays is probably going to be on freeze for 12 months.
Mm.
Landlord land like your gym, I'm sure
Yeah.
like you have to pay like some sort of like property tax on it. I'm sure that's going to be deferred for whatever. I
Well, we
mean,
hope. We hope. We don't know.
okay,
We reached out to our landlord, and we
yeah,
didn't get a response that was favorable to deferring. But that's what
yeah,
I hope, because if they have good things they need to pay for, it just trickles down to the tenants, right? If they need to
hmm,
pay for their mortgage, then we need to pay for our rent. And so, how is the government going to, you know, hit it from the top so that it kind of trickles down and ensures that the people who have all these fixed costs can manage it, or can at least defer it to later on. So what are they
yeah.
doing in the UK? Do they have a similar scheme, like percentage of pay? Like, what's happening there for you guys?
Um, they're they're crying out for it,
Oh,
so
really?
it's in the pipeline.
Okay.
So yeah, so we've already, well, when I say we, it's the government. The government's already
Mm.
enforced the shutdown of schools.
Okay.
So they've heard the cries. They've shut down the pubs and the restaurants and
Mm.
whatever social gathering is, and um, and that's the best they can do at the moment without impeding the traffic
Mm.
for the
Right.
like doctors and whatever,
Professional. Yeah.
because they need either, otherwise they need to open the parking lot for everyone who drives in,
Mm.
like or they need to open the hotel, the neighboring hotel, for those who are actually working there. I don't know, but
Right.
there are ways around it. But I know that coming from retail, like the head office of retail, I think that um, property, because we're paying for these closed spaces,
Yeah.
I think I think what needs to happen is deferral of payments,
Yeah.
because there's not much income coming in. The landlord is not paying out for like water or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no traffic,
Yeah.
right? So the landlord has no outgoing costs. So it would just make sense if
Mhm.
like if buildings and malls would just kind of honor that and say,
Yeah.
look, things are tough. We're all in the same boat here.
Mm.
We thrive on like the gathering of people, and we can't have that.
Right.
So here we'll take the hit because you are as well.
Mm.
I think that's what makes sense.
Yeah.
The government's doing enough to for social care and whatever. It'd be good if like landlord and property I don't know what they're called. I'll call them a landlord. Okay, so
Yeah.
I like
Property
people,
owners and yeah.
property owners. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I think if they take a hit too, and this goes the same way with utilities, water or whatever,
Right.
we all need to take a hit
Yeah.
because we're all affected.
Yeah, I think that's a really
So
important point that you make, because
yeah,
I think we're all looking for assurances, like you were saying, peace of mind. I think that's
yeah,
a huge factor in making decisions. But unfortunately, we can't have assurances, especially relatively early for us in terms of shutting things down. But that's something that kind of rolls out in time. So in
Mhm.
terms of funding and government assistance, that'll roll out over time, hopefully quicker than not. But
Mhm.
we all are going to be taking some sort of economical hit. And so that when we
Mhm.
when we had decided to close the gym, we had to weigh in, what at what point is there a tipping point, or what the tipping point is to us endangering people's lives, and to us trying to economically stay afloat. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we just have to accept that we're all in the same boat. Some
Mm.
people are just going to be able to weather it better than others, and we just all need to work together, right? And
Mhm.
the only real thing that we have within our control right now is what? Social distancing. Because the
That's
quicker
right.
we can slow this thing down, the
Yes.
quicker we can all get back to life. And
Yes.
I just don't know if that's happening as seriously as I would hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? So
What
it's
when
hard
you
to wrap
walk
our
out
head around.
when you walk in the street or whatever, if you go
Yeah.
out, what do you see? Do you see quite a lot of traffic out there or
I mean, the roads are about as busy as a normal weekday. The
oh,
parking lot that's next door to me, next
ah,
to a grocery store, is full. So there's
no.
people. No joke. It's busy. And so again, I don't like I get it. We all need to attend to our necessities. We all got to do some grocery shopping. I mean,
Yeah,
we haven't been to Costco since all of this has started going on, but
crazy.
they've put in some, measures as well, because I would say Costco is kind of an essential service. People need to shop. But
Yeah.
but I think people are just, again, taking this as just time off, but we need to really just hunker down with the resources that we have, get the
Mhm.
resources that we need, not what we
Mhm.
think we need, and just wait it out. I think that's really what it's going to come down to. And I'm one of those people that can't sit at home. Like if I have a day, like 2 or 3 days off with my son Cruz and my wife, I'm the one that needs to go out and about and be doing things. It's hard for me to stay at home.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're the same way, right? You like to be
Yeah.
doing things, like you said, right? So how is that
Mhm.
impacting you and kind of maybe your mental health?
Well, I live in a gated community, and someone sent out flyers on getting connected. So I volunteered to get groceries,
Mm,
so get what I can. So we put so there's a few elderly people that live here,
mm.
and I'll say, "Oh, grab some eggs for them." Like if there's extra, I'm only feeding myself, Kevin. I don't need 12 eggs. Okay, so I give them 6 eggs,
Right,
whatever,
right,
right?
right.
So like yeah, I just kind of like share it out, and I'll leave like I don't talk to them or whatever. I'll just leave it in their doorstep and
Mhm.
say,
That's
you
so
know,
nice. That's amazing.
whatever. Yeah, but it avoids me from like spoiling the eggs or
Yeah,
overeating or
yeah.
whatever. So if it in a sense, if we're gonna look at silver linings,
Mm.
in a sense, it does kind of bring people together
Yeah, 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 yeah. It
because I'm
does.
connected. Yeah, but this is not how I want to be connected.
I know.
But anyway,
And look,
um,
like if you think about this right now, you and I are talking. We haven't talked in years, but I found
uh-huh,
that we have some sort of
common
reason.
ground.
Yeah, common
Yeah,
ground, something that we can
yeah,
kinda connect on, because I feel like it's important that, people across the world, I mean, I think everyone here has friends or family across the world, that we find out how they're doing and what's going on in their neck of the woods, because we kind of live in the day to day. We live in our bubble of life, right? We don't know what's going on in the UK. I don't know what you're doing day to day, but your life could be materially impacted from this, whereas we haven't seen that yet. So I think it's a
uh-huh,
lot of uh it's very informative, and I'm just glad
yeah.
that we have this ability to do this and connect, right?
Do you know what I miss so much?
What's that?
I miss thinking in my head what I want today and then just buying it from the store
Right.
instead of just being creative of what you can get.
Yeah,
So like
so true.
yeah, and it's just I feel like I put something in my stories the other day. I'm like I never thought bread would be an issue. I never thought like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I never thought hand soap. You can't even get hand soap
Oh my god.
unless you go there in the early, right? So you can't even get hand soap, which is I feel is really necessary,
Yeah.
but like it's always sold out, and I just feel like I miss full grocery shelves,
Yeah.
and
Mm,
but at the same time, it's the earth telling us like, look, we're
mhm,
wasting a lot. We need to manage our consumption,
mm,
and we need to waste less,
right.
right?
Mm,
And for me. how all of this has impacted me is I'm very mindful of my usage now. Like
Mhm.
I'm using less hand soap. Well, no,
Yeah,
I
you're
wash
gonna
my
have to
hands.
learn. Yeah,
Don't get it twisted.
yeah.
I wash my hands, okay? I wash my hands.
Still drop.
But
Okay,
like
okay.
I know, do the Filipino way.
Oh
One
my gosh.
one
Just one
quarter,
little drop. Yeah.
let it lather.
Oh my
It's
god.
fine.
Oh my god.
But I'm very mindful of
Yeah.
like what I buy now, and like no like stockpiling. Do you
Yeah.
stockpile? Be honest with yourself. Be
Yeah, yeah.
honest.
And are you asking me or are you asking
Yeah,
general?
I'm asking
Hypothetical?
you.
No, actually, no. It's funny because when all
Oh,
this
right.
happened, when all this happened, I work in a booth, kind of. We're doing pre-sales for a studio, and I work
Okay.
directly in front of a grocery store. And as a lot of the news were coming out and rolling out, and cases of COVID-19 kind of approaching Canada and then BC, there was this big wave of people trying to get their hands on toilet paper. I'm like, hold on here. Okay, there's a panic about toilet paper. Perhaps I should get my hands on some toilet paper. And so I went and bought, we were actually running out. So I bought 2 things worth. And this was
Mhm.
before they even had limits on how much toilet paper you could buy.
Okay, yeah.
We had still have not even gotten into that toilet paper. We still haven't
Oh.
used it yet. This was like a week and a half ago. But the
Well, you're
question,
good for like a month. You're
yeah, that's
sorted.
what I'm saying. I'm good. I'm good. And I didn't think that I just didn't put 2 and 2 together. What is the correlation between this virus and toilet
Mhm.
paper?
Yeah.
What's the obsession with the toilet paper? Like, and it's
Yeah.
funny. I said this to someone else. Like, I can find other ways to wipe my ass, or in the Filipino
Tapo.
way, tap it.
Tapo.
Get get a freaking pail, bare
Yeah.
hands, you're good, bro. It's fine. We'll find ways. But that's what I'm saying is I bet you the Philippines have no toilet paper problems because we've lived like that. And if you grew up there, I grew up there. But when that's what we did. We didn't have to use toilet paper. So I just didn't understand what the obsession was with toilet paper. And there was a lot of madness, people selling it,
Mhm.
marking it up out of the back of their trucks. And,
Oh my
you
God.
know,
I think that's very selfish. I
right.
think this is you're exploiting the situation now
Mm,
where, everybody is in a crisis or
yeah.
everyone's very unsettled,
Yeah.
and now you're exploiting like you're exploiting it now.
It's
And
very opportunistic, right?
so I can't get pasta anywhere.
Mm.
I
Pass. Oh
can't
gosh, yeah.
rice. Yeah, so there's this market in the Brixton Market.
Mm.
So it's a collection of like food stalls or whatever. And that's where I go grocery shopping. But I don't know how many hands have touched the fruit, man. Like, yeah, and
I
trust me, I am
yeah.
doing salt baths, antibacterial things on these things, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
before it gets into my fridge. But I'm
yeah,
very mindful now. So
yeah,
I'm very what's changed for me is my food prep practices.
yeah,
Make
yeah, yeah.
sure like I
Food safe.
I pardon?
Remember who home ec? Food safe.
Food safe. Thank you, Tita Cookie. You are great. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're being
Well,
mindful of these things, and it's actually
mhm,
I'm glad that you brought that up because even in a space like our gym,
mhm,
we like to think that before all of this that we were a fairly clean gym, but then we started putting all these different little things into place now because we had to start wiping things down, antibacterial, but it's not necessary, perhaps then because there was none of this going on, the worry of a virus outbreak. But um, how clean were we being, and how
mhm,
easily could we have been transmitting things with a level of cleanliness that we generally practice? And that just goes to speaks about everything, right? And wherever we're
mhm.
around, when we're around people, how easily we transmit things to people with no consequence
Yeah.
because there's no major virus going around. But you know what I mean? It just puts things in
Mhm.
perspective a little bit, if you know what I mean.
So, do you think, well, looking into perspective, when
Yeah.
all of this is over,
Mm.
what would you take from this experience?
Oh, well, I mean, a lot of things. I mean, I think like you brought up a really good point about taking things for granted. You miss a full shelf at the grocery
Mm.
stores.
I miss a
Um,
I miss a handshake.
the
Um,
handshake is great. Yeah,
oh
absolutely.
my God. I
Yeah.
I used to meet the most interesting people
Mm,
on visiting my boss. I
mm.
used to meet giants of whatever other retail world,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
I would just shake their hand and be like, yeah, that's
Pleasure to
cool.
meet
I met
you.
you.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. And I don't anymore. And then and
For
it's
good reason.
and I've canceled all the meetings. I
Yeah.
miss meeting people, and I just kind of like that's what I've taken for granted, right?
Right.
So.
Right.
So sorry, I've totally made this about myself. So
No,
what would you take out of this?
no, no,
What would you
no.
take out of this, Kev?
I think like everything that you're saying, I echo. I'm very much like you. I like connecting with people. That's why I do what
Hmm.
I do. I
Yeah.
realize that over time, but I'm a people person.
Hmm.
And that human connection for me is almost essential for me to maintain my mental health. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we're at home, and I have family that I can, of course, my wife and kid that I can connect with. But I thrive off meeting people and seeing people all the time, and being able to interact, and just that inability to have any physical contact, whether it's a handshake, a high five, or whatever. I don't get that kind of re-energizing of myself, and so that's one thing absolutely that I miss. Uh, the Just being able to be out and about without worrying. I think there's this, like you said,
Hmm.
there's this worry that we all have, and the uncertainty. I
Yeah.
think uncertainty is very powerful, and I think I just love having that ability to not worry so much. And so it's
Yeah.
very early on for us, and we don't know how long it's going to be. But those are some of the things that come to mind when you say, well, what is it that you're going to take away from all of this? And it's just, honestly, it's just a lot of perspective. There was a quote
Hmm.
that I shared on Instagram. I don't know if you saw it, but it was from Gandhi when he said, "I cried when I had no shoes,
Oh
until I
yeah.
met someone who had no feet." Right?
Yeah.
And so here we are living in developed countries where we have resources in abundance.
Yeah.
And here are people with even greater resources who are, you know, being very protective or self-preserving, right?
Hmm.
But then there are other places where they have no choice but to ration and to share. And that's the perspective I feel like we're all lacking. And I'm certainly no saint here. I feel like there's more work that can be done on my part. But to just be looking out for your neighbor is so
Hmm.
important. The perspective that people have who have much less than us, and can live on much less than us, is something that I hope everyone, including myself, can take away from this whenever it subsides. So
No, no, don't waste anything, guys. Like
yeah,
honestly,
so
it's
true.
we're a wasteful society.
Mm,
It really is. Living in an affluent country like Canada, like UK, we're
hmm
so wasteful. And and really, when all of that is swept off our feet, we kind of have to be grateful for the smallest things. So I'm hoping. So here I am. I'm hoping for. I wake up and I
yeah,
have like this gratitude
mhm.
minute when I'm like, thank you for the roof over my head.
Mm,
Thank you for fresh water. Thank you for a warm shower.
mm,
And it's just so basic,
yeah,
but I that makes me, this is what I'm taking from it today, well, not
yeah,
today, like from all of this,
yeah,
is I'm grateful for like the essential things that I don't need to yearn for,
right,
because I have it all already and within my reach.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, grateful for it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had the same experience in terms of the gratitude and the perspective. Quite a few years ago, I went to the Philippines and volunteered, and of course, I'm from the Philippines, but I never experienced. I don't know if you remember this, but I went there.
Hello, I donated a huge
Oh, did
sum
you? Oh, yeah, you
I
did. Oh,
did.
yeah, you remember. So you do remember.
I do
Thank
remember.
you again. Thank you.
It's all right, no
Um,
worries.
but yeah, so you remember that experience, but as selfless as it was also a very
Mhm.
selfish kind of mission for me to kind of gain this perspective, because we
So
we
you
come
you
back.
gained more out of what you gave out,
I think
right?
so. I think so. I think I
Yeah,
got way more out of it than I could ever have given back to those people.
yeah,
Seeing again, and I was alluding to it earlier, the humility and kind of the gratitude. People living in shacks and coming out with a
yeah,
deflated soccer ball, and these kids just enjoying their time with us as if we were like these I don't know, celebrities. And of course, we're not celebrities. We're just people from other countries going there to
yeah.
to help out or whatever our reasons are. And they saw us like these amazing people, and it was just the perspective shift. When I came back, it
Mhm,
was so eye-opening to me, that I kind of grew up in this place, left, and then kind of became somewhat materialistic. And I think
mhm.
I'm going to call myself out on that, because I think that's something that we've all become victim to, being in a
Yeah,
developed country. And just
yeah,
now, with all of this going on, I think that's something I hope that I can maintain and continue to pass along even to my son, is the ability to have that perspective,
mhm,
in that joy is not found in things, it's very temporary, and joys in the the people you surround yourself with, and what you give back to people. Because like you said, I got way more out of it than I think I put out. Which is
Exactly. And
amazing.
these are the stories I love to hear
Yeah.
when I just moved here.
Mm.
I love listening to new stories, what their struggle is with immigration and whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm an immigrant.
Yeah.
Let's face it, I'm a first generation immigrant. I
Mhm.
moved here to the UK,
Right.
and I literally moved here with two suitcases and the clothes on my back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And listening to other people's stories where they were on a boat, they were whatever. I am so grateful for everything I've got.
Mhm.
It's just put things in perspective
Yeah.
for me. And I find that those I kind of like I kind of connect with those people more.
Mm.
So so if you've come from another country, I want to hear from it,
Yeah.
especially like non-affluent countries.
Right.
Yeah. So
If
your
you
experience is
Yeah.
totally eye-opening, isn't it?
Yeah, it totally was. If you right now could choose whether you're in the UK or you're
Mhm.
here at home with family,
Mhm.
where would you choose? I know it could be a tough question to answer, but where would you like to be right at this very moment? Would you rather be
Oh,
here at home or be back where you are?
with the fam, yeah, with the
Mhm.
fam, 100.
Yeah.
Because like I wouldn't be working anyway, so I'm addicted to work. So I like
It'll shut you down for a
so
while.
so I'll do something like I'll work for whatever. I'll make myself useful there.
Yeah.
But I'm always connected with my family.
Yeah.
I used to when I lived with them, you've seen our house,
Yeah.
Kev. Like we had
Oh,
this
I
big
remember that
house,
as well. Yeah.
but I felt more divided in that house than I do living here in the UK.
Mm.
We're on FaceTime almost every day.
Yeah.
I call my parents every week, and Kay and I have a lot more meaningful. Kay is my twin, by the way,
Yeah.
y'all listening.
People listening. Yeah.
We're talking every day, and I'm even though I'm not next to her,
Yeah.
I feel more connected to my circle.
Yeah.
So so it's not that it's not because I live far away. I just
Mhm.
think that if I lived in Vancouver, like right now at this moment in time, I would probably be very practical about it and try
Mm.
to get a job where there aren't any jobs available,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I would still like to be with family like right now, just
Yeah.
because it's all unsettling.
Would you consider when they start opening up airports and flights again? Is that something that's maybe on your mind is coming back as soon as all this stuff dies down?
What, coming back to live there?
Yeah. No, no, not even to live, just to visit and be,
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
I
so
visit every year,
I
Kev.
don't know. I don't know. Would you come back and live here? That's another question. Like, what do
Um,
you think? Knowing what you know now and having, really lived your life, like you said, your adult working life in the UK, where would you rather be?
no, I wouldn't live in Vancouver again.
Yeah.
Like the UK, outside of this Corona thing,
Yeah, yeah.
Europe is an oasis for me.
Oh,
Everything's standardized.
that's so cool.
There's food standards, Kev, like where
Mm.
we have to treat animals right, and
Yeah,
and it's just all it's an oasis for me because
yeah.
everything I think of like where I want like where human rights are enforced and
Mm,
everything, I just think that it's all enforced here, and
yeah.
it's a culture that I'm very proud of, and UK has a lot more. In Vancouver, it looks pretty, but I
Mm,
feel like it lacks the bodies for the culture. The
mhm.
Yeah, that there's that dynamic here that oh, you don't see like the Italian lady who's lived here for 24 years and
Yeah,
doesn't know you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you don't get that connect
Mhm.
in Vancouver, well, at least for
See,
me, this is my experience.
right.
And then you go here in the UK, I know people with I know people are who've come from I don't know what am I trying to say? I know so I've been exposed to so many countries
Yeah.
and so many backgrounds and so many
Cultures.
religions and cultures, and that's what I'm missing from Canada is that everyone that I know has lived
Mm,
a straight line where
right.
you stayed there, you grew up there, you stayed there and whatever, which is great. Like
Yeah.
I love stability as much as I love culture and, spontaneity.
Yeah.
I'm contradicting myself now, but I just feel like when I live here,
Yeah.
I it's always so new every
Yeah.
day and it's just interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
I
think,
can
and
always go back to Vancouver. I
yeah,
can I can always do that.
right.
Um and I which is why I visit every year.
Yeah.
But then I want more. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, it
Yeah.
absolutely makes sense. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people like you who yearn for that and who have yearned for
Yeah.
that, and perhaps circumstances in life have taken them in a different path. The fact
Mhm.
is that you have gone out and done it and have this um, other perspective that perhaps we don't have and we can only imagine or envision. Whereas you have this perspective, like you said, an oasis of places where you can experience different cultures and people and things. And we're kind of
Mhm.
in this kind of Vancouver bubble. And it's interesting that you say that, because there were many times when I had opportunities to move to another city, whether it was for work or just whatever it was out of desire. And I was
Mhm.
just too afraid to make that big step. And in a way, if you want to call it a regret, perhaps it is, but I'm quite happy with where I am now. But those are the things that you go through your mind and say, okay, well, what are the things that you wish you could have done, the perspectives you would have had you made
Mhm.
that big decision. And so when you made that decision, I think this is going to become more of a you question. I would imagine it would have been a lot tougher than even for me, because you have a twin sister who
Oh
you
yeah.
guys, were so connected to. And like you were saying, you were in this house that you guys shared, but you're
Uh-huh.
way more connected now than you were in the same house. So how has that perspective shift been for you, being apart from Kay and now being an aunt, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And how connected you are now versus how it was here. Like when you had to make that decision 13 years ago, how hard was that, right?
If can I be completely honest? I didn't
Yes,
really think it
please.
through. I just kind of yeah, I didn't really think it through.
Yeah,
I just
you did
kind
it.
of
You
went,
just went and did it.
"Oh, cool. I gotta go."
Right,
And I just
right,
went, yeah, I just went, "Oh my God, I'm gonna work for a cruise ship." Yeah, go out. Like I didn't know what missing somebody meant until I actually was,
right, right.
yeah, I was homesick, like,
Mm,
and I was like, it was a tough couple of years when I first moved.
yeah,
I'll tell you that. But I feel like it's built a lot of character for me,
yeah.
where I kind of, made the best out of the situation. I worked what 70-hour shifts, well, 70-hour weeks
Weeks,
to
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like to kind of pay off the Canadian debt and kind of try and create a stable living. So that struggle in the first 2 to 5 years,
Mm,
that was the thing that framed my work ethic today.
today.
And I don't regret it.
Yeah.
But when I did decide, I never thought about missing anyone. Like I just kind
Yeah.
of went, oh, shiny, let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And I love that, because I think especially in our early 20s, we have that ability to kind of just make decisions on a whim with really no
Yeah.
repercussions.
Yeah, I'm like,
It's
I don't pay rent. It's okay. My parents paid for me. I'm fine. And then like when I had to do my
yeah,
own laundry, I was just getting so annoyed. I'm like, my mom used to fold my laundry for me and I really miss her right
the things
now,
you miss. Yeah.
Like yeah.
Oh
And
my
I'm
gosh.
like, now I have to pay my own bills. But no, it's really made me who I am today. And I would I guess I'm grateful for it.
Yeah,
I,
no, and I mean, I honestly, I commend you for having the fortitude even at a younger age, whether you made the decision in an educated manner or just kind of throwing caution to the wind and just going for it. But
I was
regardless,
very
you
spontaneous.
yeah, and I love that. Regardless of however you came to that decision, I commend you for it, because look at what you're doing now and where you are. And like you said, the personal growth that's come from it, I think that's amazing. And I think we can all take a lesson from that. It's just sometimes being too thoughtful and overthinking things can really hinder your ability to grow. So I think
Yeah.
that's so awesome that you did that.
High five.
High
Doop.
five. Oh, elbow.
Elbow. Pew.
Boom. So I want to wrap this up. I don't want to take up too much of your time on this Sunday, but I want to ask you, what would your message be, given you are in the UK and the life that you're living now and how things are being handled in London? Do you have a
Mhm.
message to people on this side of the world? How should we be? Is there something that you could say that we should be doing better with regards to
Um,
all of this that's going on right now?
I don't know what's happening out there
Mm,
in Canada and
mm,
Vancouver. It's all I know is that guys here in the UK, it's really infected. Like the
Mhm.
numbers are growing, and I'm hearing coughs. I'm hearing
Mhm.
struggling. Um, all I say now is just the best thing to do is be calm.
Yeah.
Um, don't be selfish. Don't stockpile when you don't
Mhm.
need to, and then be considerate of your neighbor, and also social distance yourself. Like take it
Yeah.
seriously, like watch your face. Watch your face, watch your personal hygiene.
Yeah.
And um and uh, if I'm going to be honest with you, Kevin, yeah, we should have done it a lot earlier. We should have
Yeah.
reacted a lot earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Canada is way further than us. We've got just shy of 5,700
Mm.
infected.
Mhm.
And I think you guys are about like, what, 800?
Something
I
like
don't
that,
know.
yeah, and
Something like
growing
that. I'm
and
guessing
growing, and
now.
honestly, Canada is or no, sorry, yeah, BC, I think,
Yeah.
has the highest number or second highest number of fatalities from the virus now, so,
See,
um,
so take it seriously, guys. This is an enemy we can't really fight. We don't have a weapon for. So
yeah, that's a great way of putting it, and I think that's so
yeah,
important that we know and that we understand that that's the only way to do it, right? So, we all have to find our ways to make it work though, right?
that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you spending the time.
Oh, well, anytime.
And you're obviously a podcast listener as well. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you listening from the other side of the world. Now you get to hear yourself, and that when I pull
Oh,
it up. So,
I'll probably skip myself, but that's cool.
but I
Yeah,
appreciate you
cool.
giving your perspective from the UK, and I would love to touch base again with you when we can, and just catch up and make sure that you're doing okay as well.
Okay, awesome. Take care.
Thanks,
Take
Chris.
care and keep
Bye.
clean.
Yes, you
Bye.
too. Bye.